Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. Today I'm making a video about the Wellcome Prize shortlist. So the Wellcome Prize is a prize which celebrates both fiction and non-fiction, which feature health, medicine and illness and how it touches our lives. And I read as many as I could from both the long list and the short list. I think I managed 9 of the 12 in the long list and I read the entire short list. I'm going to start with my least favourite book and I'm going to go up to my favourite, which I hope is going to win. And the winner is announced on Wednesday, the 1st of May. So, the one that I liked the least is, whoops, hold on, they're all about to fall off my lap. The one I liked the least is Murmur by Eaves. So this is a sort of fictionalised account of Alan Turing, who was a mathematician who was gay, and because being gay was illegal in those days, he was chemically castrated, which caused his body to change shape and was obviously extremely distressing for him, and in real life he killed himself. Now, I did not like this book at all. I had really high hopes for it, but the writing style just wasn't for me. It's completely, there's no timeline. It's split into 2 sections, or 3 sections actually. The first is journal, the last is journal, and in the middle is dreams. It doesn't, a lot of it makes absolutely no sense. Will Eaves is obviously a highly intelligent person who has, you know, he's obviously very skilled at his craft, but it just wasn't for me. So if I'll open it at a random page. So let's see. This is just a paragraph from this random paragraph. These are or were the contributing circumstances. I view them unsentimentally. It is interesting that I do not consider their rehearsal to be a serious kind of thought. Underneath them runs echoes and rills of a different order, however, the inner murmur, and I take these to be true thinking, determined but concealed. So I just don't really, I can read a whole paragraph and think, what does it actually mean? I have no idea. And it might just be that I'm not intelligent enough for this book, but I'd like to think I am. It's just not my style. So whilst it's a worthy subject for sure, it's just too existential, too weird and out there, and I just couldn't get into it. I wouldn't have finished it if it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to finish the whole shortlist. I only gave it 2 stars. I know there are people out there who love this, but this just isn't my cup of tea. My next choice, so this is 5th out of 6 for me, was Heart, A History by Sandeep Jauhar. He's a cardiologist in America. This is the story of cardiology and cardiac surgery over the years, right from when people didn't even know the anatomy of the heart or how blood flowed through the heart because everybody who they looked at had already died, right through to the first imaging of the heart, so echoes and angiograms, and how difficult it was to do those things, and through to cardiac surgery, heart-lung machines, how people would die from what now are quite minor heart conditions because they didn't have the technology to manage them properly. And so that's really fascinating. I liked the bits where he intersperses patient histories and his own history with the learning, because it makes it more interesting. There were bits which felt a little bit like a textbook to me. There was way too much description of animal experimentation, and also I thought it did at the end get a bit better because he discussed the lessons that he'd learned from writing the book about his own life, which I found the best bit of the book. So I think I gave it 3 stars, but this is my second least favourite. Number 3 and number 4 could be changed depending on which day you ask me, but at number 3 I have put The Trauma Cleaner by Sarah Krasnostein. So this is the story of a lady called Sandra Pankhurst, who is a trans female who has had the most incredible life. She was born into a male body. She was abused emotionally as a child and physically and neglected, and she had an appalling childhood. She then was trying to figure out who she is, She has spent time doing a variety of professions, including being a prostitute, including just going through some awful trauma in that side of her work. And then she comes on in the end to have her own trauma cleaning business, where she helps people who are in difficult circumstances and whose lives have sort of spiraled out of all control, and who are living in absolute squalor, and she tries to transform their lives around by starting off with being a trauma cleaner. So I found the chapters on cleaning were super interesting, and hearing so they're alternate chapters. So the first chapter will be about her life, then they'll have a chapter focused on a client of hers and what she's done in terms of their story and how her life has touched their life, and then it'll go back to her growing up again, and so it's alternates like that. And I found the chapters about her life pretty traumatic, but I found the ones about her clients really interesting. So I think I gave it 4 stars, maybe 3 stars. I didn't adore it as much as other people who I know did, but I think part of that's because it's such a tough read in places. So number 3 on the list for me is Amateur by Thomas Page Macbee. This is a non-fiction memoir of Thomas. So Thomas is a trans male. He decided to explore the link between violence and masculinity by volunteering to fight in a charity boxing match in Madison Square Garden, and this is the memoir about his time doing that. So he has a very unique perspective because he was born into a female body, so he has experienced what it's like to be female, and he has gone through certain experiences from minor discrimination to major discrimination, and he has experienced that in a female body, and then he experiences being on the other side of that argument in a male body, and that gives him this really unique perspective on issues facing men and women. It talks about how he has to adjust and how he finds it hard to adjust as a man. For instance, he was always quite tactile with his female friends, and people are saying to him, you can't do that now that you're in a male body, you can't do that, men don't do this kind of thing, and he's kind of just learning how he's supposed to be behaving from society's norms. And he's also looking at this sort of dichotomy in boxing, where boxing's viewed as obviously violent and aggressive and really masculine and really tough, yet in the gym he's experiencing this kind of raw emotion and tenderness, and men who are prepared to like hug each other and touch each other and be really open and honest and cry in front of each other and things, which is completely not what he was expecting. And so it's really interesting, and I actually reviewed this as part of the Wellcome Prize blog tour, so I'll put the link to that in the description box down below. But this was really, really insightful for me, and only a little bit, but really interesting. So on to my top 2. So at number 2 is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. I really love this. I know that this isn't everyone's cup of tea. It's about it's a fiction book. It's about a unnamed protagonist, female protagonist, who is a very privileged, beautiful, thin, blonde, rich woman in New York who has basically been in a relationship where she's had her heart broken, and she has also had to deal with the death of her parents. And she basically decides to take a year off by just sleeping for a whole year in a kind of drug-induced fog. And she has this bonkers psychiatrist who prescribes her all these pills, and she's a real character. And she basically just keeps sleeping. And when she wakes, she's really not very nice to her best friend Reva, who is like kind of a little bit in love with her, I guess, because she's everything Reva wants to be, and they have this kind of weird relationship, and she has a kind of platonic weird relationship with an artist as well, who's helping her with her year of sleep, and he's using it as an art project. And yes, she's not likable, but she's really like sarcastic and funny, and the whole thing's quite satirical, and if you view it as a satire, you will enjoy it. I think if you viewed it, because she's not very likeable, if you took it literally, you maybe wouldn't enjoy it as much. But for me, I just found it witty and funny and really enjoyable. So I really liked this. So that only leaves one book, which is the one that I hope wins. And it is Mind on Fire by, another book I've watched, by Arnold Thomas Fanning. I'm just going to put my other books on the floor. So this was such an amazing story. This is a non-fiction memoir by Arnold about his time having bipolar disorder. And it's incredible. Like, he basically starts the book writing it as somebody who's manic. So you get an insight into his head of what it's like to have mania. So mania is when you have like these extreme highs to the point where you have boundless energy, you can't sleep, you're talking 100 miles an hour, your thoughts are going so fast from one thing to the next thing to the next thing that nobody would be able to follow what you're talking about. And he thinks, like, he'll see, for instance, he's at an airport and he sees a defibrillator and he thinks it's a sign that this means he has to go and save some people's lives abroad, and he doesn't understand why he can't just rip it off the wall and get on a plane, because doesn't anyone understand that's what he's supposed to be doing? And that was an incredible insight just to read the opening part. And then it goes back through his life, and he is a writer, and he's involved in theatre, and he's doing well, and he goes on antidepressants because ever since his mum died, he's been having, every summer he has quite serious depressive episodes, and sometimes antidepressants can send people manic if they have a predisposition to mania. And so you follow him through the depressions, through the mania, and how it sort of throws his life off, how it changes all his relationships with the people he knows and loves, how he alienates people, how he ends up homeless, how he ends up taking medication after medication and goes to different mental hospitals and different psychiatrists, and he lives in different parts of the world. I mean, he's just an incredible man. Like, he doesn't let any of this stop him. He does when he's really unwell, but he still tries. He tries so hard. He tries to still get grants for his films, and he contacts people, and he does programs in the arts for people with mental health problems, and he travels, and he does things which takes a lot of courage, especially like in his circumstances, and he just never gives up. And I was really worried before I read this that it would be kind of really scary and without hope, and it's full of hope throughout. It really is. Even when he's suicidal, it still has hope, and he is well now, and he's written how he's become well into the story as well. And I just think he's an incredible human. He's a really talented writer. He moves through his story at enough of a pace that it's so interesting. And I just thought this was a phenomenal memoir. I'd recommend it to anybody who's interested in anything to do with mental health. It won't bring you down, or at least it didn't for me. It was really inspiring, and I absolutely think that this deserves to win. So that's my wrap up of the shortlist. I hope that you have maybe been inspired to read at least one of these, or let me know if you've read any already and what you thought. And I really look forward to seeing who the winner is on Wednesday. Bye for now.